when I moved on to other things, still within Rover.
And, you know, I mean, the concept was obviously a very good one right from the start, because 25 years on, they still look pretty similar.
Yeah.
Did you feel at the time you'd got it right from the start?
We felt that we'd got it right, but we were rushed. In 1970, Lord Stokes was then chief of the British Leyland organisation, and he had virtually promised the public that there would be 2 new models per year. And in 1970, the 2 models were Range Rover and the Triumph Stag. We felt as engineers that that was a little too early. We would have liked a little bit more development time, but fundamentally it was right. And of course it went right through to towards the end of the 70s before any major mods came in.
Jeff, what was the difference between this model and the actual production ones?
Various. Most of the prototypes came off the line with very little trim in them, and we then started to develop various types of trim, because initially the vehicle was for home market only. So we were looking at home market trim and export trim. This particular vehicle has prototype trim that was intended for export with nylon coverings. Other trims were to be available, but in fact this trim became standard on all vehicles in about 1974-75.
Yeah, so right from very early on, the Range Rover began to establish itself as a more upmarket thing with better trim, and went on from there, right?
Yes, almost before announcement we were getting hints that our very basic trim was going to be too basic and people wanted to move upmarket, and that proved to be the case. And of course that's gone on over the years, and the trim levels have risen several times until now we're up into the luxury car class.
Luxury was the key word when Range Rover designers laid down the plans for the new version of the vehicle. Introduced in 1994 and built on an all-new state-of-the-art automated production line at the Solihull factory, it was the first real restyling of the Range Rover in 25 years. It was back in the early 60s that the Rover company acquired the rights to the compact all-alloy V8 engine from General Motors. In the USA it had powered both Buick and Oldsmobile models, but you wouldn't really recognize that original power plant today. Rover have developed it continuously over the 30-year period and have turned what was a very good basic engine into an absolutely world-class one. It has grown from the original 3.5 litres into 4 and even 4.6 litre versions, and with the addition of computer-controlled electronic engine management, it's one of the most efficient large-capacity power units in today's market. Even the transmission is linked into the powertrain management system so that the engine torque is perfectly matched to transmission settings to avoid overstretching the gearbox components. Engine and drivetrain are housed in a revised version of the rugged twin-beam ladder chassis. This is strengthened at all key stress points to enable it to stand up to all manner of off-road abuse, as well as for stable handling at high road speeds. The Range Rover in its latest form is as stable and comfortable at high speed on the road as any luxury car, and it still has the capacity to head for the outback and take on just about any terrain likely to be encountered. It's often said that 90% of Range Rover owners have no idea just what their vehicles are capable of. In fact, this luxury car is also unquestionably one of the world's most capable off-road vehicles. Back in town and country club mode, and the new Range Rover displays all kinds of features that this type of clientele will appreciate, such as, for example, suspension that allows the car to lower itself when it comes to a standstill, so that Madam can alight from her carriage in the appropriately dignified manner. Like all Land Rover models, the Range Rover runs in permanent four-wheel drive, with dual transmission ratios for either highway or low ratio off-road conditions. These ratio options are selected by a single lever operating through an H-gate system, which is unique to Range Rover. Going off-road with the Range Rover highlights capabilities that very few other 4x4s offer, let alone luxury cars. That suspension, for example, which lowers itself to allow easy access or exit. It also works the other way round. Approach terrain where you need more ground clearance, and you've got it at the touch of a button. Despite those excellent off-road capabilities, it's still the luxury aspect of the Range Rover which catches the public imagination. It did 25 years ago, and it does now, with the company making sure to regularly update the comfort features which guarantee its exclusive market niche. The original design was so right that it lasted for 25 years, and it's still the only automobile ever exhibited at the Louvre in Paris as an example of contemporary art. Over 350,000 Range Rovers have now been sold, despite an always steep price tag, with over 70% of them being exported from the UK. By the time the new century rolls around, you can guarantee that over 500,000 of these unique vehicles will have purred out at the factory gates. A totally new and even stronger version of the famous Range Rover chassis underpins